If you're a rehab professional who's tired of trading time for money, wants to make $10,000 to $20,000 per month in less than 25 hours per week with a blended practice model, this training is going to shift everything for you. What's up, y'all? I'm Dr. Ray Gorman, physical therapist, founder of Engage Movement, and in this training, I'm going to share the exact model that I used in my cash practice to give myself freedom and flexibility and move away from trading time for money. So what we're going to cover in this session is why the traditional physical therapy model is broken and why we don't need to see clients in person in order to get results, and how you can craft the business of your dreams. We'll talk about the actual money math and the blend of services that we can provide so that you can have a high profit business that uncaps your earning potential. And we'll also talk about how to deliver world-class results to your clients without burning out, without relying on more in-person session volume to make a living. So this training is not for you if you want to do things the traditional way. You want to scale with lots of staff. You want to scale to multiple traditional clinics. You're okay with insurance dictating your plans of care, and you're unwilling to reimagine what PT can be. This training is going to be perfect for you if you identify as a performance or wellness provider. You really want a high profit, flexible model that gives you a lifestyle business and freedom from in-person sessions. And most importantly, you're open to a new perspective of what makes physical therapy valuable. So let me tell you guys how I went from a broke, burnt out physical therapist struggling to pay his student loans with no flexibility to somebody who actually loved working with clients again in my cash practice and was able to travel without taking pay cuts when I was able to, when I had to remove sessions from my schedule. So 2014, Dr. Ray Gorman, physical therapist, enters the workforce and starts working in a traditional outpatient orthopedic realm. I had taken a job, a pretty safe job in a clinic that I was a PT tech at in undergrad. And I quickly found myself getting caught up in the trap of trading time for money, right? Like my job was 40 hours. I worked 4 10s. I started to work, PRN per diem shifts at the skilled nursing facility. And I was working, an extra 8-hour day, 4-hour day on my weekend. So I was working, 50, 55 hours per week, trading time for money. And I realized pretty early on that this wasn't going to be the route for me. I wasn't really working with the client that I wanted to work with. I didn't like that I had to be tied to a schedule to make money. I was really jealous of all my friends that had remote jobs and could do remote work and could work from home. And I knew that I had to figure something out, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. So fast forward to 2015, and this is the day of Ray's existential crisis, right? The day before, I had a really heavy eval day. I had 4 or 5 evaluations. I had probably seen 15 or 18 clients. And so I was in the clinic pretty late, 7:45 p.m., doing notes. I didn't finish my notes, so I had to head in early the next day. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. I'm walking into the clinic. It's 6:15 in the morning, Starbucks coffee in hand, sun's rising over the mountains. I get about halfway from my car to the building and I pause and I look up at the building and I'm like, man, is this what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? Am I going to walk into this building or a building like it for the next 40 years and just, collect my salary, collect my benefits, and that's going to be it? And literally later that night, I went home and I started my LLC and my cash practice was born. Now, cash practice was better. It was, making $150 per hour in my cash practice was better than making $50 per hour in the nursing home. But I quickly found that I had the same problem on a smaller scale, right? I was still trading time for money. And at the crux of that, what it really meant was no session, no money. So a client cancels, there goes $150. I'm sick, there's a $600 day. I want to go on vacation and I have to, block out my schedule. Now the vacation costs me twice as much. I have to pay to travel. And I also have the opportunity cost of, losing those days of stacking my schedule with sessions. And then one day I finally had enough. I had a full day of clients scheduled. I had like anywhere between like $800 and $1,000 of, session volume on my schedule. And it rains harder in my town than it's ever rained before. And the roads to my clinic flooded. And so I had to cancel all of my patients, and there goes $800 to $1,000, right? And I finally said, you know what, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like, let me kind of see what everybody else is doing out there. So you may have done some research on like how everybody else is talking about scaling, and it's really simple. They're basically saying all the things that we already know. Raise your prices. Cool. Doesn't really help me with the session problem. Take on more clients. Just makes the session problem worse. Hire more PTs so you can work yourself out of the business. To me, that sounds like just trading one headache for another. And so in reality, like their version of success actually kind of seemed like my nightmare. So I knew that there had to be a different way, but it didn't quite exist, right? So at that time, I had my cash practice, and I was also working for a company where everything we did was online. And so I obviously saw the benefits of working with people in person. It wasn't that I didn't want to work with people in person. It was that I saw the pros and cons of that. And I also saw the pros and cons of everything that we did online. And so I started to think like, well, what if I just had like a blended practice model where I merged those two things together and I created the best of both worlds? That's the PPGM, the Performance Provider Growth Model, was born. So the simplest way of how that works is we basically start with a high quality in-person assessment if we need, and then we create the best blended plan of care for that client. We do that in a way of stacking monthly recurring revenue with an offer that we call a prescriptive exercise program. That's our remote management process. That is the thing that has no sessions tied to it and gives us recurring revenue, aka gives us the flexibility. And then we strategically stack package revenue on it that is sessions, that gives us the opportunity to make high volume of money in a very short period of time. So essentially, clients can come in, they can start in person and eventually move to blended, eventually move to remote. Most of my clients came in and they started on remote and in-person right away, so the blended model, and then eventually I transitioned them to fully remote, or I can take somebody and just put them from the assessment into a fully remote offer. And this was a model that really felt good for me. It allowed me to get better results because no longer was I just trying to get clients out of pain. I was actually able to bridge the gap and return them back to their sport with this prescriptive exercise program. So I felt like I was onto something here, right? But this model like doesn't just work for me. There are other people that we have taught this model to. Dr. James Johnson is a great case study of this. He works in the bodybuilding and, physique competition niche. And when James came to us, he was doing okay. He was making $8,000 to $9,000 per month. But the problem was like he didn't really have a system that helped him create the type of recurring revenue that he was looking to create. He wasn't selling packages in a way that we would want people to sell packages. And more importantly, he was working like 45 to 50 hours per week to do this. So once we came in, we implement the system, we're able to get James to, $13,000, $14,000 per month in about 25 hours per week. He recently just told me he did his yearly numbers. Since working together, he's made 30% more revenue and he works 60% less time. So when we talk about make more money in less time, this is exactly what we mean. James is a dad of 3 and he's now able to spend his weekends with his kids. He's now able to be flexible and present with his wife when she needs. And this is exactly why I love the lifestyle model of the business. So let's quickly talk about the money math here and understand that you can play around with these numbers and figure out like what's the blend of in-person and remote services that you actually want to offer. But let's first look at like the simple path to a 10K month. So if we can get you 11 sessions per week at $150 per session, and that gets you to $7,095 per month. And then let's say we stack 10 online clients at $300 per month. That 10 clients online can be serviced in 2.5 hours per week. So now we're making $10,095. This was actually the blend of my first 10K month. Was I had about 11 sessions on my schedule and I had 10 clients that I was working with. And I was like, damn, I'm onto something here. Like, this is great. That is just 13 and a half hours per week that I have to work to make $10,000. The path to 20K months is one that you can take as well. So let's increase the session volume a little bit. You could do 20 sessions per week at $200 per session. Now look, those business metrics that I talked about before, volume and price, those things don't go away when we talk about our business model. So that gets you $17,200 per month. And let's say that you had 10 clients on your roster at $400 per month. So again, that's $4,000 a month serviced in 2.5 hours per week for $21,200 total in 22.5 hours per week, right? Keep in mind, my first job, I was making like $5,000 a month in 40 hours per week. So this model is super attainable for people. We do this with what we call that layered revenue system. So the biggest problem that traditional cash businesses have is that they start each month at zero, or they are solely reliant on session-based revenue. So even if they have recurring revenue, it's often tied to sessions. So there's no way to break free from your schedule. So what we basically do is we raise the floor. So instead of starting at zero, our prescriptive exercise program is generating $4,000 per month. And then we are able to stack that package-based revenue, those in-person sessions on there, so that we can have that high revenue opportunity, but we also have that freedom and flexibility. We also do this in a way where we make sure that we increase your effective hourly rate. I see so many times people are trying blended models, hybrid models, where their effective hourly rate is going down. You can see here that if you had 10 clients per month, you service them in 2 hours per week, you're actually getting $349 per hour. Now we have some clients who have an effective hourly rate of $500, $600, $800, $1,000 per hour. I'm not kidding you, because the prescriptive exercise program is tied to outcomes, not time. So you get that high flexibility, that high margin opportunity. Let's take another case study here, for example, Dr. Kate Dowd. This is 4 days into the month of January. Keep in mind, she already had $3,400 of recurring revenue come in. She sells enough packages to generate $8,120 in 4 days and hits $11,500 in 4 days. And that's with another eval on her schedule pending. So like, what I want y'all to see here is how fast you can hit that number when you have the right system in place. If I had to boil this down to simplicity of like what is going to give you a stress-free business, it's the combination of these two things. It's the monthly recurring revenue, and what we want our clients to do is we want our clients to have enough monthly recurring revenue that all of their overhead is covered, that all of their personal bills are covered, and then we want to stack packages on top of that. So now, once the recurring revenue is equal to expenses, we have a stress-free business owner. The blend of these two things, that's what makes the performance provider growth model, like in my opinion, I might be a little biased, the most flexible lifestyle business model out there, because it is just so versatile in what you can do and how you can bias the business for different seasons of life. So again, y'all, like that's just the start, right? Like here's what a lot of our providers build to. They build to a 15-hour treatment week with $200 per session, $12,900 per month. They have 15 clients on their roster at $350 a month. That's $55,250. Again, that's literally more than I was making at my first outpatient orthopedic job. And that's giving them a total of $18,150 per month in total revenue. That's like almost $218,000 per year, right? So again, here's 2 more case studies of clients that are literally doing this. Dr. Tyler Khaleesi, he is a stud. He's a little bit more online biased. But when we first started working together, you can see his business was at $29K. At the new mark since working together at the time of this screenshot, he was at $70,000. That's over double what he was the year prior, just with implementing our system, just with implementing our structure. Based on that 5-month projection, 175K this year, working maybe 30 hours per week. Like, think about that. Think about all the time that you can get back when you just have a model that actually works for you, not against you, right? Kyle Womack is another excellent example. He does kind of these sprint-based processes. He lives in Hawaii. And so what he does is he actually goes to different islands. He flies to different islands. He sets up an evaluation day. He does that evaluation on that island at a gym. And he basically sells those clients into remote services that he'll service over the course of the next 6 months. So when he does things like this, he can make almost $4,400 in 5 hours of work. So if you're tired of trading time for money and ready for a business that gives you real flexibility, recurring income, and clients you actually enjoy working with, book a call below. We'll map out how the performance provider growth model could fit into your life and see if it's the right next step to help you build the ideal business and get you the freedom that you've been looking for.